Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Analysis. I'm your host, Maz Patel. Tensions are rising in the Middle East once again as Israel launches a powerful series of airstrikes on the Syrian capital, Damascus, attacking yet another sovereign nation. In a developing story, Druze anti-government militias have reportedly carried out deadly attacks on Bedouin communities in Syria's southern Suwaida province, following the withdrawal of government forces, according to state media. The Syrian Arab news agency, Sana, reported that the militias targeted the Al-Maqus neighbourhood in Suwaida, alleging that they committed atrocities, including the killing of women and children. Unverified images circulating on social media appear to show multiple bodies lying on the ground though their authenticity has not been independently confirmed. The strikes mark a significant escalation in Israel's military posture and signal a growing divergence from US policy in the region. On Wednesday, Israeli warplanes struck key targets in Damascus, including a section of Syria's defense ministry and areas near the presidential palace. Israel claims the strikes were carried out to protect the Druze minority in southern Syria, an ethnic group with deep historical roots in the region and a population of around 150,000 inside Israel. Some factions of the Druze enlist in the Israeli army. We have this report.
Powerful airstrikes rocked Damascus on Wednesday, targeting the defense ministry and hitting next to the presidential palace in the Syrian capital. Israel has vowed to destroy Syrian government forces attacking Druze communities in southern Syria and demanded they withdraw. Shortly before the blasts, Israel's defense minister had said painful blows will come. Scores of people have been killed this week in violence around the southern city of Suwaida. Fighting between the Druze minority, government security forces and members of Bedouin tribes has prompted Israel to strike repeatedly with the declared aim of protecting the Druze. Druze are followers of an offshoot religion of Islam and a spread between Syria, Lebanon and Israel. Druze in Israel have been calling on the Israeli military to protect Druze in Syria. On Wednesday, some Israeli Druze broke through an Israel-Syria border fence in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asked Druze citizens in Israel not to cross the border into Syria, saying the situation was very grave and they could be kidnapped or killed. The Israeli military said it continued to strike Syrian regime targets in southern Syria, including tanks and pickup trucks mounted with machine guns heading towards Suwaida. The violence has underlined big challenges facing interim President Ahmed al-Sharaa, despite warming ties with the United States. He seeks to stitch Syria back together in the face of deep misgivings from groups that reject Islamist rule.
The move comes amid growing concerns that Israel and the United States are no longer aligned in their vision for Syria's future. While the Trump administration has been working with Turkey, Qatar and Saudi Arabia to support a unified Syrian state, Israel appears intent on carving out its own path, one that favours zones of influence and direct intervention. Israeli Minister Amichai Chikli called on X for President Ahmed al-Sharaa to be eliminated immediately, stating, "Anyone who thinks Ahmed al-Sharaa is a legitimate leader is gravely mistaken. He is a terrorist, a barbaric murderer who should be eliminated without delay." Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has also publicly called for the assassination of Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa, marking the second such statement by an Israeli official within a 24-hour period. In a video message, Ben-Gvir stated, "The disturbing footage emerging from Syria confirms a single truth. Once a jihadist, always a jihadist." Referring to al-Sharaa by his former alias Mohammed al-Jawlani, he added, "Those who commit murder, engage in acts of humiliation and perpetrate sexual violence are beyond negotiation. The only viable course of action is to eliminate al-Jawlani." A senior advisor at the International Crisis Group told Middle East Eye, Israel and the US are definitely not on the same page. Syria's Druze have reached a ceasefire agreement with the Syrian government in Suwaida that will take immediate effect. And Druze religious leader Sheikh Yusuf Jerboui said in a video broadcast by state media on Wednesday, prominent Druze leaders, including Sheikh Hikmat al-Hijri, have called for international support, warning of what they describe as a total war of extermination. However, other Druze voices have rejected Israel's involvement, raising questions about the true motivations behind the strikes. Syria's interim president, Ahmed al-Shara, addressed the nation saying protecting the Druze citizens is our priority. We have this report.
Syria's interim president, Ahmed al-Shara, said that protecting Druze citizens and their rights is our priority, as Israel vowed to destroy Syrian government forces attacking Druze in southern Syria. Shara was addressing Druze citizens in his first televised statement after powerful Israeli airstrikes on Damascus on Wednesday, July 16. It is a war with no goal other than the fragmentation of our homeland and the dispersion of our efforts towards chaos and destruction. Syria is not a testing ground for foreign conspiracies, nor a place to implement the ambitions of others at the expense of the blood of our children and women. The Syrian state is the state of everyone. It is the dignity and pride of the homeland. It is the dream of every Syrian to see their homeland rebuild itself again. I also address the Druze people, who are an integral part of the fabric of this nation. Syria will never be a place for division or fragmentation or sowing discord among its people. We assure you that protecting your rights and freedom is one of our priorities, and we reject any effort that aims to drag you to an external party or to create division within our ranks. We are all partners in this land, and we will not allow any group to distort this beautiful image that expresses Syria and its diversity. Here, Israel resorted to extensive targeting of civilian and governmental facilities to undermine efforts which greatly complicated the situation and pushed matters to a large-scale escalation. If it weren't for the effective intervention of American, Arab, and Turkish mediation, which saved the region from an unknown fate, open war with Israel at the expense of the Druze people and their security is destabilizing Syria and the entire region. Between allowing the Druze leaders and sheikhs to return to their homes and giving priority to the national interest over those who want to tarnish the reputation of the honorable people of the mountains. We are not among those who fear war. We are the ones who spend our lives facing challenges and defending our people. But we put the interests of the Syrians before chaos and destruction. So the best choice at this stage was to make a careful decision to protect the unity of our country and the safety of its people, based on the supreme national interest. We decided to assign some local factions and sheikhs the responsibility of maintaining security in Sweida. I stress that this decision stems from our deep awareness of the seriousness of the situation for our national unity, and to avoid the country slipping into a large-scale war. Israel's airstrikes blew up part of Syria's defense ministry and hit near the presidential palace as it vowed to destroy government forces attacking Druze in southern Syria and demanded they withdraw. The attacks marked a significant Israeli escalation against Sharia's Islamist-led administration. They came despite his warming ties with the U.S. and his administration's evolving security contacts with Israel.
So, joining me to discuss the latest developments is Dr. Nizar Tobe, a Syrian political activist, and also Dr. Noman Hanif, the director for the London Centre for International Relations. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to you both. Let's start off with you, Dr. Nizar. What's the situation on the ground right now? We know the Israelis carried out these airstrikes, one very close to the presidential palace, obviously attacking Syrian security forces in that region of Sweida. What's the situation today?
Thank you very much, Mas, for having me once again. The situation currently that Israel is trying to destabilize Syria by playing with the cards of minorities again. So this minority, the Druze, is about 500,000 people out of 24 million, so 500,000 out of 24 million. They form about 2% of the population. We've been living together more than 200 years, and there was no problems at all whatsoever. They've been very much living their freedom, basically. There was no problem. Only they were under suppression as we were under suppression under Assad.
Yeah.
The only problem now is some of them, not all of them, some of them, led by Sheikh Hikmat al-Hajri, who is a traitor for his country, and who has communicated with Israel, our number one enemy currently. So after Assad fall, now our number one enemy is Israel, because it's the only side, the only country that has been striking us, have been attacking us since the Assad fall. So anybody in any other country who is communicating with number one enemy, they should be considered and regarded as traitor. And this is what Hikmat al-Hajri and his militia is. So they are traitor. They have communicated with Israel. They communicated with Muwaffaq Tarif, who is the Sheikh of Dروز in the Israel. And Muwaffaq Tarif, in his turn, has been communicating with Benjamin Netanyahu. And unfortunately, Benjamin Netanyahu has responded, has agreed to strike and to strike our loved country. And there was many strikes on Presidential Palace, on the Chief of Staff headquarters in Umayya Square, and many other airstrikes on Dara, on Suwaida, having killed, we don't have actually official numbers, but dozens of people, including security staff and including soldiers from Ministry of Defense, in addition to civilians that happened that they were in the area. So basically it's traitors, it's a group of traitors, militia led by Hikmat al-Hajri, and he should be accounted for his bad actions,
Dr. Nizar, what's the situation today? Are the Israelis still attacking? I mean, we saw the address by the president, and he said, but for the intervention of the Turks and the Gulf Arab states, I presume, this could have become much more serious. Have the attacks stopped now, or is Israel still bombing Syria?
The attack have stopped with some efforts of Turkish and Gulf state efforts. So it has been stopped. And I think Trump is very much reluctant to such attacks. And he did warn Netanyahu previously not to attack Syria, because clearly he was actually very much with Ahmed Sharawi. He was on his side. He wanted to give us a chance, and he lifted sanctions on Syria. So he wasn't happy at all with the actions of Netanyahu, and he demanded immediate stop of these strikes. So they have stopped. However, the al-Hajri and his group, they are still on the run. They still actually doing massacres in the suburb of Suwaida. They are still slaughtering the group of Badu. This is Sunni people. They are in the suburb of Suwaida. They are committing massacres against them. And they still basically committing these atrocities.
Okay, can I just, and very finally, before I move on to our other guests, have the Syrian security forces, my understanding from the president's address is that they have withdrawn from Suwaida, or is that not the case? Have I got that wrong?
So the forces of the Ministry of Defense have withdrawn from Suwaida. Okay. However, the security forces which belong to the Ministry of Interior, they are still in Suwaida. They are taking control. And once actually they enter the National Hospital in Suwaida, they found dozens of killed people. They found actually a massacre committed by al-Hajri militia in the hospital, in addition to other massacres.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Dr. Nouman Hanif, we've spoken about Syria in the past, and you've obviously had quite an in-depth view in terms of what's taking place in the region. Without me prompting you, and I will do that later on, but just tell us your understanding of what's going on so that we can be better educated. How do you see it happening, taking place in terms of the analysis?
Sure. I think the issue of Syria, one main kind of the elephant in the room which is missing is Turkey. And, the Americans gave that role to Turkey to be able to look after Syria and kind of move it towards, what the Americans wanted to move Syria towards. And Turks did that. And the Turks started deepening their engagement, which America was absolutely okay about. The problem that Israel has is with this particular fact that Syria is in no position to confront Israel militarily. It's nation building. Just recently, Trump announced the dismantling of the sanctions infrastructure in order to allow Syria to build. So they were happy with Turkey. They're happy with Syria. They're happy with al-Sharia, as Nizar has mentioned as well. And I think that this is a problem that Netanyahu is facing, because his ideological position, his vision doesn't see Syria as a stable, strong, emerging state. And his focus has been on effectively demilitarizing Syria. He's attacked the military, he attacked the defense department, which is very symbolic.
But Dr. Hanif, can I ask, we all saw pictures or posters, were they large posters in various Israeli cities of Arab leaders, excluding Iran obviously, with Sharia even on those posters talking about the Abraham Accords. Are these attacks something to do with the Abraham Accords? Because we know President al-Sharia has been very reluctant to openly speak about Israel. He's tried up to now to not antagonize the Israelis in any way, shape or form. Has something happened behind the scenes with the Abraham Accords which has now led to this this attack? And I'll just add a joinder. I was listening to the former head of the MI5 in this country, Sir John Sawyers, and he said very clearly when he was being interviewed that this has nothing to do with protecting the Druze. This is the Druze are just an excuse for the Israelis to further destabilize Syria, and it's actually not a good development. But please tell me your opinion.
Sure. I mean, if that point you just made at the end, the parallel to that is what they're doing in Gaza with the tribes, with the Palestinian tribes.
Yes.
They're playing the divide and rule card, and the pretext for interventionism with support on the ground. And the Druze have given them that. I mean, it's ironic, isn't it, that they're looking to protect the Druze from government oppression when they themselves have just carried out a genocide.
Well, everything Ben Gvir said about the Druze could equally apply about the Palestinians and themselves.
Exactly. It's a ludicrous situation, really, for Israel to be argued. But I think that what Netanyahu is now seeing. Remember, Netanyahu has outlived a lot of American presidents, and he has that ideological vision. And he's seen now that Israel is a position of strength. He doesn't want to see Turkey being strengthened in Syria to the point where Turkey becomes like a military alliance or a defense alliance, which will prevent Israel from expanding into Syria or from destabilizing, weakening Syria. They see that. Now, Trump in April, he had a session with both Erdogan and Israel. Remember, Erdogan has been reaching out to Israel recently, a lot behind the scenes. So, because the roles that Turkey has been given by Trump, but to Erdogan, Netanyahu is violating that, and you can see that frustration in the Americans as well.
Okay,
that he's pushing the red line too far.
Okay, Dr. Nizar, you've obviously got strong ties to the Syrian, well, now leadership, I suppose, because they were in opposition and fighting the horrendous regime of Bashar al-Assad. Do you think this now puts to bed the narrative that Ahmed al-Sharaa and those that have taken power were in bed with the Israelis, that they were agents of the Israelis? Because a lot of people from the old regime, from those who support Iran, fully, they were putting that allegation onto you. Does this put to bed that allegation, number one? And number two, do you believe Turkey and Saudi Arabia and the Gulf Arab states will now intervene to make sure nothing further happens to destabilize Syria by putting boots on the ground, perhaps, or giving Syria some realistic air defences?
So number one, it's actually, it does make me laugh, these false allegations, because if Ahmed Shara and his group and actually our guys were dealing or are dealing with the Israeli, they wouldn't have actually on the very same day of Assad's fall, they wouldn't have bombed our remaining of strategic weapons.
Yes.
The Israeli actually stated clearly that they are scared of these strategic weapons being fallen in the wrong hands, which mean our hands.
Yes.
Our hands were the wrong hands, were considered the wrong hands for Israeli. If we were agents for Israeli, they wouldn't actually be scared of us, and they wouldn't have bombed us. The only country since our liberation day, since the 8th of December, have been bombing Syria is Israel. So Israel is still our enemy, and we are their enemy, and they know that. They know that only because we are weak now doesn't mean that we are not their enemy. We are, only we cannot actually reply to their attacks now because of the current situation. In answer to your second question, that I believe strongly that Turkey, in addition to the Gulf countries, they have a lot of benefits of strong and independent and stable Syria. They have a lot of benefits in that they want the region stable. They want Syria to gain back its strength. They want the trade to come back to the usual before our revolution.
Yes.
And they have a lot of benefits. They don't want Iran to be the key player. And we have managed to kick Iran out. We have managed to kick Hezbollah out of the region.
Yeah.
And so I believe strongly Turkey and the Gulf countries are playing key role here in defending a strong and independent Syria, because this is their benefits.
Okay, thank you, thank you, Dr. Nizar, for that. And I go back to you, Dr. Hanif. Hasn't Ahmed al-Shara actually shown remarkable leadership here? Because unlike perhaps President Mohamed Morsi in Egypt, not creating those alliances, what Ahmed al-Shara has done, same strand of political thought, political Islam, I suppose, what he's done is created strong players within the region to back their government, and that's the difference. We know the Foreign Secretary has just re-engaged diplomatic relations with Syria, Foreign Minister of this country, which means that Syria is now on a much more stronger footing, and Israel more scared of a strong Sunni country than it was a Shia-led minority country. Dr. Nouman Hanif, we've got a minute to go, so please condense your answer. My apologies.
Sure. Look, Ahmed Shara is a snake's pit. These leaders, all of these Gulf countries, they supported Morsi. They abandoned him. They supported Hamas. They abandoned Hamas. Okay, they're only there for the American interests, and they're only positioning Ahmed Shara to fulfill American interests. Shara is pragmatic. He knows the strength of Syria. He's been held back, I think, in stating a lot of things. But it's a very, very difficult situation because the whole region has changed.
Dr. Nouman, do you think he's handling it well? That's my question, really. In short,
it's difficult. I would say no. I think that it's a very difficult question to answer, because all I can say is he's handling it. Just like Hamas was trying to handle it.
Okay.
Just like Morsi was trying to handle it.
Okay.
But you can't say they're handling it well, because these are all American clients, and they will, in fact, stab in the back when they see the position.
Okay. Well, Dr. Nouman, thank you so much, and you too as well, Dr. Nizar. We'll be back on this pretty soon. But listen, for now, that's all we've got time for. Thank you for joining us. Until the next episode.